see a bit later on today. That's us, Dan. We are live at SharePoint Fest
Hello.
Chicago.
Woohoo!
You're on
Yes,
location, man.
I am. I am in Chicago, SharePoint Fest 2018 here. We're first day and first day of sessions, 2 days of workshops prior. So everything's going well. How are
Yeah, I
you?
didn't realize it was such a huge event. I mean, I've been along. This was a few years ago, but to SP Fest Seattle, and I didn't realize that SharePoint Fest was the.
It's quite nice. And they actually had, what I heard was a large percentage of attendees came to workshops. So that's great to get immersed in in the technology and really have a few hours with speakers and other attendees to learn. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, I heard there were some great combos too of co-presenting going on, like Sue Hanley and Joe. Um, yeah,
Joint live.
and there was actually so much content, of course, to talk about because there has been a lot that's being delivered to SharePoint even this week as we speak in the message center.
That's right.
Well, we
Let's
do
get
have a
to
bit
it,
to
man.
get through it. Exactly,
Yes, we do.
exactly, and we'll try and be quite verbally descriptive too, because unless you want to open up your admin apps on your phones, of course, and follow along with us, you all have that installed, don't you?
Oh,
Don't you?
that's right.
Is
Yeah,
everyone nodding?
yes, 50% of the people are nodding.
And the other 50% aren't global
So we're
admins and they haven't been given access to the app, so that's
up.
cool. All right, so yeah, let's get on with it. We're checking out. Oh, and we're way ahead of. Yeah, that was me just reviewing things as we go. But our first message, we get these occasionally every now and then. It's nice to see Microsoft updating us and saying there's been some changes into the Trust Center. There are, a
Yep,
few other vendors or something's changed in here. So just in full disclosure and maintaining that trust, here's what's happening. So we don't have
right.
to say too much about that, but we'll
Yep.
encourage you to go in and look in there. And if you find that there's a vendor in there that's totally in conflict with your your organisation, then yeah, make some choices. Right, that was a bit weird, but this next announcement, like
Yes.
if yeah, I won't go down that road. This
Yep.
next one actually is so appropriate to SharePoint Fest, because last week we had a few like this, didn't we? It was about saying, here's what's in.
Well, yeah, this is all about SharePoint News updating. We've been talking about it, some previews of what may be coming happened at SharePoint Conference earlier this year, and then Ignite, of course, and here we are. So the SharePoint News, getting organizational wide news site is fantastic to be able to say, I'm designating this site to be my SharePoint. And then, that special visual styling for that news, fantastic to say, again, making sure that people know that that's the authoritative source or, it's not just someone's news list. So I'm excited about the SharePoint News and how it's evolving to be that communication device for your intranet.
Well, and it's all very visual, very configurable. You can pull a lot of stuff together to frame up a beautiful story. And this the point of that is really about employee engagement and making sure that people are not just informed at just a chat level, but they can see a full story. I think what about these two announcements is it is giving more visibility to that news and having it pop up in a more central way. Earlier it was more intermingled with whatever was available to you, whatever you could see personally across the sites that you were belonging to. Now we see organizational news being given priority, and it certainly can be put out more front and center.
Right, exactly. And I think, the functionality of SharePoint News is fantastic functionality, but then it comes into, well, what's truly your organizational news? And because everybody can have news, right? So what is truly that? And so I'm loving this update in regards to the news items, but there's also updates to the web part, the news web part, to being able to say, targeted news. And so I like this additional functionality of being able to target, not only have news and not only have that organizational, but be able to target that news depending upon the viewers of the content, right? Making it more personalized, that news experience in your intranet. So,
Yeah, we're talking about that. Remember, news is also across the mobile experience too, and that's where many of us will take that brief opportunity. Maybe we're in transit on the train. I can see Phil Wall here talking about that he often checks out news on the bus or train. We're doing that from a mobile, and the SharePoint mobile app is going to bring through this news. It's always going to deliver you what's personal to you. But now we've also got that organizational news highlighted and definitely targeted.
Yep.
All
Awesome.
right. Well, moving along to another SharePoint announcement. Or rather, it's already been announced. That's the thing about this stuff. Like, when it comes to the message center, it's already been in the roadmap. Yep. It's already been talked about by the product group. They've already done the twice yearly discussions. This is not an announcement. This is hey, it's around the corner. Get ready.
Exactly.
Update feature
that's
ability
the thing, we talk about all the time, Darrell, is that we're not the beginning of the announcement, right? We're trying to help you take this information and put it toward your organization. So you're dead on there.
Yeah, if anything, you've already been talking about these announcements and this news and just looking forward to it. This is the business end. This is the business end in most cases, right? In most cases, there are some things that get dropped in there occasionally that there's a little less warning. But usually this is the point that you're looking here as an admin, you're looking here as a service owner, and hopefully I'll ask this question again to the audience, and you can tell me, Dan, by sort of seeing how many people are nodding. How many of you have enabled the Message Center Reader role? Yeah, so that other people in your org who might not be admins can read these messages and inform their organization.
Well, Darrell, as you were talking, I got the shaking of the heads. So I think maybe we need to do a job at utilizing that. What we need to be doing.
I'm broken up about that. We'll have to do a special episode on that one. Coming back to the messages in the message center, the ability to view and apply site designs from within the SharePoint site, and this is not your stock standard out of the box ones. These are the ones that you've organized and created yourself, right?
Right. So you could only do this with PowerShell from up until this point. So being able to apply site design is something that we got earlier this year to be able to say, create your own site design, right? To be able to use PowerShell to do that. So this is fantastic. We've seen this multiple times where they bring PowerShell functionality first and then bring it into the UI. So there'll be a new setting option for site owners to display a new site design information panel when this gets rolled out. And the targeted release is mid-December. So starting that in probably a week or so and getting it rolled out by the end of December. So this is going to be an aggressive rollout for SharePoint Online to enable your site owners, not your administrators, but your site owners, to be able to apply these designs.
Hey, a little pause there, and I probably should have found this earlier, but did you see the tweet? Someone put this together as something of a 12 Days of Christmas song, and that SharePoint was delivering a whole lot by Christmas?
I did not, actually.
Right.
Tell me about it.
Well, no, I'm going to find it before the end of the show and see if I can display it, maybe even sing it to you. You're right. Don't do that. Max, quiet. But yeah, look, we'll get you busy on another announcement while I dig around and find that eventually. But yeah, this is good. We'll keep moving along. Planning for change. Okay, this is actually, if we look behind the scenes, go back to our full screen here. This is a major update. Yammer group files in Office 365 connected groups will now be stored in SharePoint. Yeah, exactly.
When this is one of the first things that turned me off on Yammer. People can have gripes, complaints, or they can love it, but I think we all can agree that you shouldn't be storing your documents in Yammer when you're wanting to collaborate, when you're wanting to use them across your organization. It was what it was, when it was implemented, and it worked great for that. But then people started, well, should I use that versus SharePoint document libraries? It's like, I would say apples and oranges, but I wouldn't even agree that it's comparing fruit types. It's like, it's not comparable. And so to be able to say, hey, you know what, we're going to be storing our documents that is part of our Yammer group in SharePoint, just like we do for Teams, right? Or Teams has done always, is using SharePoint library, not always, but we've been able to do that of showing, having this files there in SharePoint. So we get all of that goodness of document management in SharePoint along with Yammer now. I'm loving it.
Yep, exactly. Look, this is, again, we've been looking at Yammer has taken quite some time to get ducks in a row, to get fuller and fuller integration. Now that we see that in place, we are starting to see these capabilities coming out. The story of better together, that Yammer, SharePoint, Stream, Teams, etc. They're all cooperating to an end goal, and it's a really clear vision of where Yammer fits in, where Teams fits in, that SharePoint underpins that document story. So really happy to see this. Gee, I thought I'd found the tweet, but I can't. Look, if there's anyone here in the live audience, and I know that will probably depend on someone like Phil or whatever to drop this in the chat, that would be awesome to find that link. I know you know what I mean. This is definitely worth finding. So moving along, it was just so clever. It was really good, and like it's almost like I can see the SharePoint team grabbing this and actually making something of it. 12 Days of Christmas. Security compliance alert signals are now available in Office 365 Management API. Neither Dan or I are security experts. We might lean on some people out there in the audience. But look, wherever there's some APIs that have been opened up to allow us to dig in and to bring out these signals and drop them into the tools that we use, software that we're creating ourselves, if we can bring in these signals and highlight them in dashboards and all sorts of other things, this is a good thing. So APIs and opening up, sweet as. I think someone's found this tweet for us. Moving along again. I know, I'm just insistent, but it's really good to see the community is coming together to bring that. All right, so we have sharing links that block the download. Look, I've got some thoughts about this, but Dan...
hold on a second, do you have the updates to Power Apps licensing?
That's a bit further along, I think. Let me go back. Let me go back here. It was there, and in my list, types indication. No, it has been removed. Is that an indication of something?
Is it gone from yours as well? Oh, from the audience, we've got someone else it's been removed as well. But
well, let's mention something about it. You've got to talk about it. You got to talk about it.
Yeah, so this is MC165936 for all of those track. Updates to Power Apps licensing in Office 365. So it was announced that the licensing model for Power Apps Microsoft Flow is changing. So starting February 1st, 2019, the following capabilities will require a Power Apps or Microsoft Flow Plan 1 or Plan 2 license. So the first one is integration with on-premises data through the on-premises data gateway. So if you're using a data gateway to allow Power Apps or Flow to connect to your SQL or SharePoint on-prem or other system on-prem, then you're going to need to pay. And when I say a Flow Plan 1 or Plan 2 license, that is not included in an Office 365 E plan, E3 or E5. It's not included. So you would have to pay extra to be able to access your data on your on-prem through the data gateway. 2, custom connectors. So we've been able to create custom connectors for a long time to connect to systems that may not already have a connector in the gallery for Flow and Power Apps. So if you create one and you use it, you're going to have to pay, you're going to have to get a Plan 1 or Plan 2 license. And the third thing and there's been a lot of, let's say, discussion about this one, and that is the HTTP triggers and actions inside of Microsoft Flow. So what this means, and there's been these HTTP triggers and actions have been used throughout by a lot of people in Flow to connect to systems, to make calls to systems, even within Office 365, like the graph, that don't have a native trigger or action in Flow. And so they've been using this kind of generic HTTP trigger. And so what this means is after February 1st, 2019, if you're create new ones or you have existing flows using an HTTP trigger or action, then you're going to have to pay, or you're going to have to get the P1 or P2 or it won't work. I think the key here for this one is they made a note in here that your organization or the expiration of your current Office 365 subscription, I'll mention that in a second, term, whichever is longer. So this is in the, how does it affect me? So basically, if you're already doing this, then you're going to get a grace period of a year until January 31st, 2020. And if you're not already doing it, but you do want the additional year, you can open up a ticket with Microsoft through the 365 Admin Center and open up a ticket, and they'll give you another grace period. Now, but I wanted to mention, though, it is the whichever is longer between January 31st, 2020 or the expiration of your current Office 365 subscription term. What that means is it is terms or year or 1 year, calendar year. So it's just making sure that it actually is January 31st, 2020 or the expiration of that term. So if you re-up, every year you have to say, okay, I'm going to keep doing with my licenses in 365. So there's been a lot of talk. I actually personally think the data gateway is going to be a big deal. I know the HTTP triggers and actions are something that a lot of people are using and feel like it could be an issue, and I agree with it. I think that Microsoft's going to do a good job of catching up with those and having native actions and triggers in Microsoft Flow for that. So I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal if you're connecting within the Office 365 space, but it's the connecting to your on-prem data, I think, is going to be a huge deal, especially for people who are in this transition mode, but either have systems, applications that are on-prem that they just not going to the cloud right now, right? Or can't. There's no comparable tool in the cloud. Then this is going to affect you.
I've found the article that Chris McNulty posted.
Yes.
Or rather, Susan Hunt had found that and shared in the notes. Yeah. So is it that because it is missing or has been removed from some of our admin centers that it is being rethought through? I think you mentioned that there was an update and an extension of the grace period. Perhaps that's a new message that's rolling out.
Well, no, the extension, the 1 year extension, was actually in the original post in the message center. So it was always there. I don't know why it's been removed from some people's admin center, the message center. Sorry. Maybe they're going to redo the messaging on this. Not sure, but I don't know.
I'll also say this about the blog post. I mean, it's informative. It's making it very clear about what's coming and what to think about. But it is one of those posts which has been locked. There's no opportunity to pass any comment or to give feedback. So,
why would you think, Darrell, they would lock a blog post on the tech community that is normally open for people to respond? Why do you think they would do that on the offset?
Well, I think that it's not considered good news, and overall there would probably be mostly negative feedback, probably not even constructive feedback in some cases. Look, and I
I
think these
agree with
are,
you. I think that's probably what it's more about, and it's also about. Um, I think it's one of those. This is the way it is, and we're going to, you know, we're going to give you updates. We're going to revise this blog post if updates, but otherwise, this is it. So
yep,
there really is a communication to be had. Now, I actually, the first time I read the blog post was like, oh, I've got a lot of questions here. And a lot of those others did too about licensing of, well, what if it's this? Or what if it's, I create a flow and I'm using this. Do all my users have to have the additional license as well to use it? I mean, all of those kind of questions that weren't really answered in the original blog post. So, but anyway, so why has it been removed? I don't know. Hopefully, it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be reposted with additional, clarification of sorts. So.
Yeah. Oh, well, let watch that space literally. Keep an eye on that blog post, and keep talking about it in the community. It's always good to try and work together with Microsoft to come with a good solution for everyone. Going back to that other announcement or message, sharing links that are blocking download. Think about this. I've always thought that when I share something and it is anonymous sharing, there is no need to log in or anything. That not only did it give people the ability to view the content, but they could also download it. And I always felt that was something that, you didn't really want people to do that. Here, view only links, not just view and download.
Right. Well, and that's the what I had a session this morning of talking about. It's actually about Power BI, but it was we were talking about sharing, and it's one of those once you share content. In a way that you can't track it or lock it down, you might as well just assume everyone has it, right? And so it's kind of that, how's it go? People say, once you send an email, don't ever send an email that you don't want published in the newspaper, I guess is the way, right? Mm-hmm. Because once you send it, you've lost it. You've lost control of the message, it's gone. And so I think that same thing here is once you have shared through a sharing link, you've lost control. And I like them having that enabled to where you can block download with sharing links now in Office 365. So that's good.
Yep, definitely good to see. We've got a few more to go, and thank you, Evan, for sitting in and
live
those
chat
in
as
the
well.
Online audience too. Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah.
So content type syndication will stop publishing content type changes to OneDrive for Business or My Sites.
Yes.
Now, this apparently affected the performance of content type syndication to regular sites.
Yes. That's what I'm hearing. Now, I didn't understand that fully, why it was doing that, or maybe it was because there's so many of them, because, your personal site is its own site collection. So maybe because in any organization,
100,000 seat org maybe.
Right, you're going to have, that means you have 100,000 site collections. So at least, right, not regarding your internet, but so maybe that's why it was slowing it down, because there's so many more personal site collections. And so maybe that's why, they're probably reducing, even if no changes are made, and you don't modify your content types and it really is turned off automatically, then it is you are cutting off probably at least 50%, maybe even more of the syndications across the whole Office 365. So
do you think it's and perhaps there's there people now who can answer this, whether it's a push or a pull, that if it's the content type syndication site that's nominated to be the place for those content types, that these are pushed out, and because there might be 100,000 OneDrive sites, that's a hell of a job to happen in the background versus pull.
Yeah, and yes, I agree. The push. It's huge, just having that process. And so I think that was the, anyway, but the one thing I want to say is that I contacted a couple of people that I consider, pretty well versed in OneDrive as well as content types. And I asked them, I said, have you ever done this? And the answer was no. No, I haven't used content type publishing to personal sites. So, it is it being used? I don't know. I'm just saying that was a very limited survey I did. But so maybe it's also, hey, we're doing all this. We're doing some work and it is not even being utilized, and people don't even know it's being utilized. It's not that it's being turned off. It's just it's being the default being on is being turned off. Right. So
yeah,
the default on is being turned off. Right. Yeah. So it's not like it's going away. It's just that it's not going to be on by default, and you can turn it on.
Moving on to Outlook on the web, there's a few changes in there. So you'll be pleased to know that shortly you'll be able to go to Outlook.com, whether you are using your Office 365 account or your personal Outlook.com account. Wait, hang on, that's confusing. You know what I'm talking about. We would often refer to consumer accounts as Outlook.com accounts, and now it's going to be one and the same as a landing page. Or redirection, at least. No?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's probably a good thing. It's simplifying the page to go to.
I agree. I'm actually not a huge fan of the new version of Outlook.com. So I use Outlook.com for personal, and I like the old version way better than I do the new version. I don't know why, and it's not I'm not an agent of not changing, right? It's not like I'm against change. It's just that I don't know. I'm going to have to get used to it, obviously, but and I've had it for a few months, but I just don't like it. So but you and I, that one of my major tenets is I like consistency, and so being able to have consistent access to email, whether that's personal or through your organization. Okay, so through your Office 365 account. So at least it'll be consistently bad.
Yeah. No. Look, I think there's mixed reviews there. I'm a fan, and more recently, due to the number of different mailboxes I'm connected to, I have been living a bit more in Outlook on the web and enjoying the responsiveness. There's a couple of other things in this message too, around improved response tracking. When someone sends you a meeting invite as a meeting organizer, you often have a few ways that you can respond. You can accept, and you can send that response right now. You can edit that response. And then there's a third one, which is don't send a response. And I think the wording there is a bit tricky, because what happens is you are sending a response, and you're sending it back to your meeting organizer so that they can get that tracking and say, yes, Daniel is attending that meeting. But now what they're changing there is that response will come through, but the meeting organizer won't have yet another item, another blue item in your inbox to say, Daniel said yes, he's coming. So it's just going to happen quietly in the background.
Which is good, because that's always been the gap, right? Is that if you don't respond, like you say accept, your account, our calendar, I'm sorry, is the only one that's updated, right? So that's great that it shows up, but then the organizer's like, well, you haven't accepted. It's like, well, I did, I just didn't want to let you know. So being able to update both of your calendar, the tracking information is great, to be able to update that, and then so they can go and look and say who's accepted everything. But so instead of just ignoring it and not replying, right, and just having it there, then being able to update that information is great.
Yep. The other thing, and this kind of links back to something we talked about a couple of episodes back, some organizations, small organizations, have been targeted to be shifted to Microsoft Teams and away from Skype for Business Online as their meetings experience. So this next bit here, that within Outlook Web Access, the default meeting experience is being changed to Microsoft Teams. If you're using Outlook Web Access and you're trying to organize a meeting, you won't have Skype for Business as an option. You'll have a switch that says, I want it to be a Teams meeting, or it's not going to be an online meeting. Now, this might rub some organizations up the wrong way still. Yes, you? Yeah? Similar. I think similar too. Look, we're an organization that still helps other orgs get familiar with Skype for Business, use Skype for Business, and we need some of these features to remain in our products so that we can help them use it.
I agree. The thing I just got through, Darrell, I just got through saying I love consistency, didn't I?
Yeah.
Didn't I, Darrell? Said this. Well, the other part of this is if you've enabled Teams in your organization, Outlook for the web, you're going to go on there and you're going to create a meeting. What's going to be the default now, Darrell?
Teams.
Teams.
Yep.
Okay, what if I'm in the classic experience, meaning desktop? What if I'm on my desktop and I create a meeting? What's going to be the default, Darrell?
Well, it probably should be Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't like this. I want the experience to be the same, and so I'm all for setting it to Teams and then switching over. And even if it's an organic switch over, right? Don't force it, but just say, hey, here's the Teams button, click it, create your meetings, wonderful.
Yep.
That's great. I just want it to be consistent. And it is I don't know. You're going to have half your meetings in Teams and half in Skype, whether you want to move or not. And I really don't like that experience. So
look, what I want to say about this too, and it links to that other more not forceful, aggressive. I'm looking for the right word. The change is happening, whether you like it or not. The response to this is, if you haven't already started a adoption plan for helping people get familiar with what Teams is, and you're an org that has been using Skype for Business Online, then get started now. Yes, there are definitely pieces of Teams that are intuitive, but we can't just say that power users like us are going to easily get familiar with it. What about the person who struggles with every time that a button moves? They're going to need to have some help about, well, what is this Teams thing, and how do I use it? It looks different. And so that's really your response to this.
Yeah, I mean, having that change management it's going to be huge. And I hope that you have that in your organization. If not, then now's the time. No time like the present.
Yeah, you'll still be able to attend Skype for Business meetings. It's just that this will become your default experience for creating meetings in Outlook Web Access or Outlook on the web. Right. Yeah. Well, there's just, I think, that is it. There is no more.
Yep.
There is no more. So thank you so much for tuning in, those of you online. This is awesome. Hello. Look, I should just drop up the chat there, do a bit of a roll call. Steve Collier, Phil Worrell, Max Fritz, who's also in person. Oh my goodness, his dual personality. Yeah, Chris Webb. I know that Suzanne Hunt was tuning in from New Zealand. And sorry for those who were listening in. There was a hailstorm while I was listening to Dan. You did? Did you like that? Some New Zealand weather?
Yeah, it actually was a little bit interesting. I was like, at first I'm like, is he running water like in the sink or something? No, it's all good.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Look, and we'll just close out too and say, as I guess housekeeping, there are a couple of new shows and a couple of things that Regarding 365 are up to. Laurie and Strantz got a new playlist and a show that is Working from Home Warrior, and that has been really well received. He's interviewing not just IT pros, MVPs, or Microsoft, but he's also talking to just regular people who work from home. And are discussing these changes and challenges, and so it's really good to see that being talked about. We've also got a focus this month on security. So Jethro Segers, newly re-awarded Jethro Seegers in the MVP programs. He's back. Not that he left. And he'll be leading the charge there and organising some content within the team with a focus on security. I think Max Fritz, I'm calling you out. I think you stuck your hand up for participation there. And lastly, and it was coming to him. Oh, that's right. Someone else joined the MVP program. There was just a few tweets and a few retweets and a few hearts. Someone who likes to sketch.
Yep.
Louise Fries. Yes, Louise Fries. She's joined the MVP program. And so it's really cool to see that and celebrate that with her. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This has been a slightly longer episode. Hopefully we're not causing issues with people waiting to use the podcast center. But that is us. We'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
There it is. I've got to sing it. On the last day of Christmas, Jeff Teeper sent to me 12 teams transforming, 11 planners planning, 10 new office icons, 9 countdown timers, 8 mega menus, 7 SharePoint spaces, 6 flows of flowing, 5 power apps, 4 section colors, 3 mentions, 2 SharePoint hubs, and a Yammer tab in Microsoft Teams. Thank you, Jeff. That'll do. Bye for now.